people in there.
Cool.
You do that, buddy.
All right.
So, Andrew, have you listened to the show before?
Don't think so. I read your article though. I really liked your writing.
Oh, nice, man. Thank you. Look at this. Look at this, Jason. We were just talking about the blog posts earlier and what they've been doing for us.
Yeah.
I guess so. Andrew,
I guess I'm gonna have to start writing shit now too, huh?
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, you should, buddy. But that's a conversation for later. Andrew hit me up to come on the show to promote his new podcast that he has. That seems just fucking bonkers, by the way. I'm excited to talk about it. So basically what we do is it's called Open Micers. We talk to comedians about their like time as open micers, their start in comedy. You know, if you're not from New York, you know, your time from before, you know, that kind of stuff. And then we also just kind of keep it loose, really silly podcast, kind of any topic goes, right? Like it's, you know, you're not going to bring up anything too stupid for our podcast is what I'm saying. So like, feel free to let whatever fly and we'll roll with it.
All right. So we're about to roll. Jacob, which one should I play tonight? Regular or acoustic?
Play acoustic. And Andrew, if you can hear our intro music, I want you to give us your opinion on it. Because it is quite possibly the worst intro music of all time.
Okay, cool.
All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
Just drop that ass, bitch, it's Open Micers in the house. Pop that pussy with that Open Micers logo in your mouth. Jason with his bald ass head, Jacob looking in bed. It's Open Micers, bitch, heard what I said. Drop that ass, Open Micers in the house. Drop that ass, pop that pussy, Open Micers in the house. Open Micers in the house, Open Micers is a mouse. Drop that ass, pop that pussy, Open Micers in the house. The mic is now open.
The mic is now open. My name is Jason Robbins.
I'm Jacob Craig, and that horrible, atrocious theme song means that it is time for another edition of the Open Micers Podcast, where we bring on comics and talk about their time as open micers and whatever else may happen. Our guest tonight, I'm very excited for him. He hit me up a while ago, asking to come on the show, did a little research on him, and boy, was I happy to have gotten this DM, fellas, because this guy is a New York comedian. He is a regular at some really good clubs, including the New York Comedy Club, and he has a very funny and inventive new podcast happening called Special Quest with Matthew Silver. If you haven't seen any reels of it, if you haven't seen any episodes of it, please go check it out. Go follow him on Instagram and check out what the fuck this could possibly be. And we're going to get into it right now. It's the one and only Andrew Steiner. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you?
All right, man. So Special Quest. No, well, first of all, what did you think of our theme song?
Well, listen, it had some charm to it. I couldn't hear the music though. I could only hear the vocals. So I want to hear it in like high fidelity, you know, to do justice to the producers and, you know, the composers and all the instrumentalists that I'm sure were underneath it.
Yeah, well, just listen to it again, but imagine only knowing 3 chords on a guitar.
Yeah,
and that's how Mark Simmons made it.
It's got, as they say in the screenwriting business, it's got good bones.
Got good bones, dude. I mean, that was written by quite possibly the worst local musician we have on the coast here. It's just god awful. Mark Simmons is god awful.
I love Mark Simmons, man. He's awesome. I love the theme song.
You guys are in Mississippi. Don't you have like an old blues guy to be like, yeah, open micers, doing heroin, popping that pussy?
We should stalk Ground Zero for our next theme song.
Yeah, I think a lot of the blues musicians are dead at this point.
True.
I mean, I would love to have
great note to start the podcast on, Jason.
Thanks.
All the blues musicians are dead.
God damn.
Maybe Mark Simmons will follow him soon. Andrew, I'm very excited to talk about your new podcast you've got going with Matthew Silver, dude. I've checked out some of the stuff that y'all are doing on there, It seems just absolutely bonkers, silly as all get out. Explain to everyone what it is and what they can expect when they tune into an episode of it.
Sure. Well, so Matthew is basically a performance artist and clown. He doesn't like to refer to himself as a stand-up comedian, even though he does stand-up comedy, open mics, and does stand-up comedy shows. He's like way more in the avant-garde. And I kind of verge on there myself. So basically we're just taking that to the streets. Basically we set up a tripod in a photogenic area in New York City usually, and we just act weird as fuck and kind of sometimes we dance, sometimes we sing, sometimes we talk to people. You know, we could just get weird basically.
So basically every episode you go on a special quest, right? To do something.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because the one I saw where you guys were on the like gymnastics rings and there were three of you trying to do it. And you actually hit a pretty good backflip, but Matthew could not.
He hit his head. That's what he hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So you kind of just do like kind of crazy challenge stuff like that on the street?
It's not even a challenge. Like we just posted up at the park near where I live in Chinatown, and there were some exercise equipment, and we kind of played with that, and we were just played with the basketball hoop. You know, they lifted me up to the hoop, and I like climbed along the scaffolding, and then I dunked technically, you know, and then we saw a guy working on the rings, and I walked over and I was like, hey, could you show us how to do that? So it was not planned, you know, it was just like being in the moment, basically.
Okay. And so is that kind of what goes through your head when you're filming an episode of Special Quest, as opposed to being like, well, we have to go do this one crazy thing? You kind of just like set up and see what you can film?
Usually, sometimes I'll have a few things in my pocket, you know, like let's meditate, let's lead a poem, let's like make up poetry together, you know, that kind of thing. But not always.
Gotcha. And as far as your stand-up goes, your stand-up is kind of from the same vein, it seems like. I know Matthew's stand-up is as well. But I saw a video of you a couple of days ago. I think you were doing jump rope with a strap-on dildo.
Oh, yeah.
Explain to me what's happening there.
Please
Listen.
Explain to me in detail, because I don't really know. Like, is it the handle?
I mean, that's not my closer or anything. Usually, that's not my usual.
Is it like
closer.
tied in the middle, so it's just like flopping around everywhere?
Jason, he had it on and he was doing jump rope, so it was bouncing up and down.
Yeah, I was strapped.
Okay.
So that was for Matthew's show, which I host sometime. His like clown show. So you know, the first time I hosted his clown show, I did stand up. You know, I told jokes, I did a little crowd work, and he was not happy with me. He was like, this is a fucking clown show. You got to do performance art. You got to be weird. And so since then, I've been trying to make it a little different. And the bit was with that one is that I'm part of a medical testing thing. I'm getting paid they're studying the effects of arousal on exercise, like whether it makes exercise more effective. So, you know, they gave us these exercises to do every day, and I wanted to show them and get their opinion on the exercises. So I did push-ups with a ball gag in, you know, I did this boxing thing with a nipple clamp on, and then I jumped rope with the strap-on dildo on.
Nice, dude.
I'm like, I don't even know what to say to that. I mean, that's just like the visual is just, I can't get it out of my head now, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to.
Also, I mean, the funny thing is the dildo wasn't your normal everyday dildo. It was, have you heard of Bad Dragon?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, it was one of those. It's like an Amazonian river creature's dick. That's what it was.
Yeah, Bad Dragon makes like 10-inch, like 5-inch wide, like tentacles and dragons.
Jesus.
Dongs. Yeah, dude. If she has a bad dragon at home, you know she's for the streets, bro. Like, you don't mess with that.
Hey, I bought my wife a Bad Dragon.
Hey. Well, Andrew's packing.
He's like,
Andrew's
here,
not
leave me
scared
alone.
of anything.
Nah, I don't give a fuck.
Anything, go play with yourself.
Yeah.
It's
We'll use it together. Get the assist, man, from mythical beasts. I love having a fivesome with fucking Bigfoot and a unicorn.
Yeah, dude, you just tag in the centaur sometimes. Like, I gotta get up for work in the morning, dude.
Yeah,
Your
exactly.
turn.
Exactly.
Oh man. Speaking of bad dragons, Andrew,
Mhm.
where did you grow up? Are you from New York?
I'm from the suburbs of New York City, mostly Westchester, New York. But I did my first open mic in New York City in Queens. So I've always kind of been part of the New York City scene, even though when I was just like out of it, I would still have my toe dipped in there. But for the past, I want to say like 6 or 7 years, I've been living in New York City.
How
Okay.
old were you when you did your first open mic?
I was 26,
Oh, okay.
2013.
2000, so about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
All right. And how much hair did you have back then?
Did I think I was just shaving my head bald pretty much, or maybe I had like some scraggly. It wasn't much better than this situation.
When did you
Okay.
start losing your hair? Because I started losing mine when I was like 18.
Yeah, I think I was like early 20s, 23, something like that.
And how hard did you try to save it? Like I did everything I could that was available at the time. Like, dude, I was doing Rogaine, like all kind of shit trying to save it.
I didn't do anything because I was listening to Joe Rogan a lot at the time. He's like, just shave your head, man. I made a mistake. I did the thing and it fucking didn't work, man. Stop being pussy shit. And I was like, you know what? Okay, cool, man. But now I'm at the point where I'm like, wait, it's not, it's definitely funnier to just grow your hair out. Like, I feel more like it matches my onstage persona more to have stupid, ugly hair. So I'd rather have this.
Andrew, are you Jewish or no?
I'm a full-blooded Jew, man.
Because I was about to say it looks like you have like yarmulke hair.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just perfectly suited.
Yeah, right here.
And then no one would ever know that you're bald with the yarmulke
Yeah.
on.
If it's
Like,
big enough. That's true. That's true. Yeah,
Mason,
with
how
a
big
big
is your yarmulke?
I don't know, it's not that big.
Andrew, I cut you off, buddy. I'm sorry.
Oh, what I do want to say though is I am no longer a regular at New York Comedy Club.
What happened there?
I was a regular there. I was doing late night for a while, but I think I got a little too weird, a little too avant-garde. I didn't whip out the dildo or anything, but I did come in dressed as a character a couple times and sang some songs, and I don't think the management particularly liked that at their club.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought this up. I definitely want to get into this.
Hmm.
So you're a regular at New York Comedy Club. They see you, you're good at comedy. Then you decide to how long after being a regular do you decide to push this envelope?
Like 2 years.
Okay. So you've been a regular at this club for 2 years,
But
and
but
then
when we're saying regular, I'm not like a paid performer. I'm doing late night. So that's like their way of, the best people in late night then get paid spots eventually, sometimes. Not
so
even
you,
that, not even the best performers, the ones that they like the most or whatever.
okay, so you've been more on the cusp for 2 years, but you've been working here regularly for 2 years, not
Yeah,
necessarily a regular.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, so you've been working here regularly for 2 years, and you decide to push the envelope a little bit with the character, because what's the worst that can happen?
Hmm. I
And
mean,
the
nothing.
worst happened.
It wasn't even that bad. I did lose my temper a little bit, but someone was being a dick. Like one of the comics who they liked more than me was kind of like, um, I basically asked like, how much time do I have left? Because I was like, going to start another song, and he's like, too much or something. Said something kind of rude, and I was like, suck my fucking dick, and I don't know. I guess that got around to management or something. But they also said they booted me off. Not they didn't quote that. They basically said you've been on tour for too long, so you're no longer on the roster. Which just seems like a weird thing to punish.
Yeah.
So you're too successful, and then they won't let you perform at the club.
Pretty much. I mean, I wouldn't say I was successful, but I was doing comedy on the road.
Well, I'll say it for you. I mean, if you're doing road gigs, that's where the money is made. So, I mean, doing
Yeah, but
road gigs like that is
they weren't paid. Like some of them were paid, but I was mostly doing it for the experience to get longer stage time, because I was like 4 or 5 years into comedy, and I was just like,
Okay.
you know what, I want to. I wasn't opening for anybody. I just like self booked it all over, and I was just like, what did I do comedy for? It's to do the road and like have that life and experience that. So even though I'm not like I wasn't a legit headliner headlining clubs, I just decided I'm gonna do it, and I drove from New York to Toronto, all the way to Vancouver, down to Los Angeles, and then up to Colorado for over 2 months.
Okay. And so did you have good shows there?
I had some terrible shows. I had some great shows. I headlined some open mics.
Okay.
I did some packed rooms too, and it was a great experience.
Yeah. I mean, it still sounds like all positives to me, to be honest. I mean, like any form of being able to book on the road, like not every comic can just decide I'm gonna go do the road for 2 months. It seems
Hmm.
weird to punish that from you're basically your home base comedy club.
Yeah, yeah, but whatever. No bad blood. I'll do New York Comedy Club again. And they are willing to start paying me.
Right. So they weren't really paying you that well either.
They weren't paying me at all. It was late night. They give you the dregs of the show, of the last show.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
See, we had
So
a guest on last week, also named Andrew, Andrew Ferrara, who spent a couple of months in New York and trying to bust into the New York comedy scene. And he didn't really have a glowing review of the New York comedy scene. And he said it's a lot of pay to play. There's a lot of people who taking advantage of some of the newer people, and it's really hard to kind of make a community, because once people are done with their sets, they're pretty much off to the next open mics. There's no real sense of community there.
Yeah, there's some truth to that, but there's also just so many comedians and so many people taking it super seriously that like it took me about 6 months living here before I felt like I started making friends, because I feel like people were just like, oh, is this guy just gonna drop off? I don't have time to make friends, to invest in a friendship, a work friendship, with someone who's not gonna be here in 6 months.
Yeah.
So there's kind of that vibe too, and there's a little bit of competitiveness for sure. At the lower you are on the totem pole, the more competitive it is, kind of.
Yeah.
In like terms of cattiness and talking shit and whatever, not paying attention to your set, um, and it's just a giant scene. It's like 4 or 5 scenes in one, really, because each borough kind of has its own scene, and there's like the alt scene, and there's kind of the like edgy scene, and then there's just like everyone in between.
So last week, Andrew Ferrara mentioned that he had to do some weird work to kind of make ends meet and stay in New York. And so that work for him entailed he would be a plant audience member on like the Wendy Williams show
Oh yeah.
or what was it? Cheryl Underwood's show? Was that who it was?
No, it was
Sherry Shepherd.
Mm.
Sherry Shepherd's show. And so like she would say something and he would freak out, and the other audience members would also freak out because that's what he's doing. Has there been any like weirder work that you've done like that in New York?
I mean, I've walked dogs. I've bicycled juice in the winter in the snow up and down Manhattan for little to no money. I'm trying to think. I've done so many different things. I've been a barista. I've worked events that Anthony Fauci was speaking at.
Okay.
As a waiter. I'm trying to think. There's been so many crazy jobs. I've been a butler. I mean,
A butler?
podcast. Yeah. This like Uber of butlering, this app where you go to people's houses and you throw out their trash, and that's how I started my Whole Foods theft habit. That got really bad, and eventually I got arrested for. And
So you got arrested for stealing from Whole Foods?
Yeah, I was just stealing a few $100s a week for over a year.
Jesus.
Whoa! And they pinched you for that, huh?
Well, luckily they didn't pinch me for all of it. They pinched me for the one time they caught me, thank God. Um, and luckily I got a nice, good Jew lawyer, and it's not on my record. It's not on my record anymore, and the statute of limitations is over, so I can speak freely about it.
Okay, so you didn't do any like actual jail time for that.
No, I did get put in a holding cell, which was not fun, but it was fun.
I think everyone's been put in a holding cell.
But $200 a week? You said $200 a week?
At least, probably more.
What the hell were you stealing? I don't spend that much on
groceries. Well, it was from Whole Foods, Jason.
Well, true. It's probably like
he stole a loaf of bread a week.
Exactly. No, I was taking like ribeyes and crab and sushi, and they have like goods there. They have I took some stoneware, Le Creuset stoneware, and I took like a hoodie. I took all this crazy shit.
And are you using it or reselling it?
I was using it. I was eating it.
Okay.
Feeding my friends with it and my mom, and not that we were like poor like that, but I want to eat good. I want to eat well.
Like if I'm gonna get caught, I'm taking this side of beef with me.
Yeah. And it's funny, I still kind of steal from Whole Foods, but legally. I steal legally now.
You use coupons?
No, I just return the 3 most expensive items. I order it on Amazon Prime, and then I say, this one's it's a little fishy. This fish is a little fishy. And then they're like, oh, you don't need to give it back to us, and we'll refund the money to your card. And I'm like, cool, legal stealing.
Okay. Okay. Perks of being a bit of a Karen there. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I need to get on a side hustle like that.
Yeah, no shit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm missing out, man.
So yeah. I want to circle back to this Butler app thing, Andrew, because I am currently writing a screenplay that's about butlers, kind of.
Okay.
It's about a murder that takes place at the annual Butler convention. And so the butler did it, but they have to find out which butler did it. But it was definitely a butler. So I want to get into your experience butlering. What's this Butler app? Fill me with as much Butler knowledge as you have.
Well, listen, it was called Alfred. Hello, Alfred.
Okay.
But it wasn't, I didn't have to wear a tuxedo or anything. I just went shopping, picked up groceries, picked up prescriptions and dry cleaning, took their laundry in, made their beds, took out their trash, wiped down the counters, left them a nice little note. Like, that was pretty much the extent of it.
Okay, so you leave them a nice little note. What kind of note are you leaving people as a butler?
Just like, oh, I couldn't get this item because they were out of it.
That's not a nice note.
I fucked your dog. Your dog was asking for it, that kind of shit.
What kind of note would you leave, Jacob? If
I'd leave a fucking ransom note, dude. If you ever want to see your $200 Bad Dragon dildo again, then you need to send me this amount of money.
But I would also take naps under people's dining room tables. And
why there?
I don't know. I wasn't gonna sleep in their bed. I'm not that much of an asshole, but
a couch.
Yeah, sometimes I guess. And I would eat my stolen sushi lunch at in a penthouse on the 40th floor in Wall Street, just looking over the city like I was the lord of the manor.
Oh yeah.
It was pretty cool.
See, if it was me, I would have left a letter that said something like, I left a poop somewhere in this house. Give me $1,000 and I'll tell you where.
No, but the job was good. They were actually very nice at that company, and it paid well for the time. It paid like $19 an hour. And they were very, I don't know why they didn't fire me, honestly, because I would spend hours and hours at a cafe writing on the job. While I was still on the clock. After a while, they only gave me 2 clients. I think because they were just we want to give him the clients we want to get rid of. I think that's how they were using me.
Nice. They were using you to their advantage.
Yeah, because they had some grandfathered in clients who were paying too low a fee and they couldn't get rid of. I don't know. So
All right. So be honest with me, Andrew. You're in these people's homes. How much snooping around are you doing? Are you looking in underwear drawers, medicine cabinets?
I mean, occasionally, yeah, yeah. I tried to, the nicer they were, the less I snooped.
Right.
When they were cool and I liked them, I was very respectful.
All right. Did you find some stuff at like an asshole client's apartment?
Dildos. I smoked one client's weed once.
Nice.
Nothing too crazy, I don't think, honestly.
It's the perfect crime because you
Yeah.
can't be like, hey, this guy smoked my weed. Then they'll be like, you have weed?
Well, now it's legal here, but back then it wasn't. Yeah.
Right. Back then, they would have put the full hammer of hello, Alfred Justice onto this person.
Yeah. Yeah, but now, like most recently, and actually since 2018, I've been a podcast producer for work. That's my job.
Okay, what podcasts are you producing right now?
Right now, I'm doing this one, Charmed. It's called House of Hollowell, but it's like a podcast for this show, Charmed. The actors who were on the show, it's their podcast.
Whoa, okay. Which actor's podcast is it? Who are the hosts of this show?
They're I don't think they're like that famous, but in that world.
Is it Holly Marie Combs?
Yeah.
Dude, you can't just casually drop that you produce a podcast for Holly Marie Combs and not expect me to freak out.
Oh, I don't know. People knew her like that.
Yeah, dude. Anyone who's seen Charmed,
Yeah.
I
I
think
fuck with Charmed, dude.
I think Jacob just found a new podcast to listen to.
Yeah, dude. I'm definitely gonna check that out. Actually,
Nice.
I'm sure
Yeah.
Alyssa Milano's not on it.
No, she's not. Brian Krause is on it. The
Okay.
guy who was Leo or whatever.
Okay.
And then some other guy, Drew. But I produced some like pretty big name people. I mean, I worked at the Comedy Sellers podcast studio for a while, so I was producing History Hyenas for a minute and Robert Kelly's podcast for a minute. And I don't know if you know basketball, but JJ Redick, I was his engineer for a while. And
Okay.
like, do you watch The Sopranos?
Yes.
So Big Pussy, I produced his podcast.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice, dude.
Yeah, we're still kind of close. He was a good guy.
We
That's
got to
awesome,
get Big
dude.
Pussy on the show, Jacob.
I already have a big pussy on this show. His name's Jason Robbins.
Nice. Nice.
That's not cool, man.
So the podcast producing pays pretty well then, I assume.
Honestly, not well enough right now. I left
Okay.
the company I was working. I mean, they pay me okay for the time I'm putting in, but I'm kind of struggling to meet ends meet. New York is fucking expensive.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's too bad. I mean, it's still cool to be producing, I mean, that it's very comedy adjacent to be doing full time, podcast producing. Does that help with making your own podcast? Like, I mean, because I assume you're more well versed in knowing, like, as a podcast producer, what hits and what doesn't.
Yeah, it does help, but I still have not had my own hit podcast.
Yeah.
I used to have a podcast that had some like, not like Ian Fidance was on back in the day before anyone knew who he was, and
Okay.
but yeah, my podcasts are usually not very successful. So I don't know. I don't have the producer's touch to make, gold, but I'm better producing other people's.
Yeah, I got you. Well, maybe you and Jason should talk then, because we're in the same boat.
Yeah.
Share notes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm happy to give my expertise, but it's a tough field right now because there's so many people doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the
Yeah.
thing, is just trying to find the audience. As there's an audience out there, but how do you find them? And how do you get them to find you? There's a lot of work goes into it.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
That's the thing. A lot of people want to do podcasts. A lot of people over the years have come to me and be like, hey, will you help me do a podcast? Help me. What do I do all this? And people don't realize how much work actually goes into getting people to not only to like just produce the show, make it, you got to do all the artwork, you got to post everything, but just the work that goes into doing social media, trying to get some traction. I mean, it's almost like a full-time job.
It really is.
While I'm at my job, I'm doing stuff for this podcast, whether it's social media work or just trying to like scavenge people's emails to email like bigger people to get on our podcast. Like I'll spend like hours and hours researching comedians, who's their management, how can I get a message to them?
You know who was really cool that I had on my podcast? Brody Stevens.
Oh,
really cool.
Nice, dude.
Yeah, he was really, really nice guy. It was not the best episode of our podcast because he really wanted to talk about baseball, and I couldn't give a shit about baseball. But but he was a very sweet guy.
And did Brody give you any like advice on comedy or anything like that?
He did. Not then, but we had him on this show. He was nice enough to do like the show my friends and I were producing. And I don't remember what he said. He was just talking about Hollywood is the devil, man, the demons in Hollywood. And he's saying some crazy shit. And we were smoking weed together. And he was just very generous with his, no advice that I really particularly remember, but I just remember him being extremely generous with his time, and it's very sweet.
Yeah, I think that's what everyone has said about Brody that I've heard, is that like he didn't seem from the outside eye like the nicest guy ever, but he was kind of the nicest guy ever.
Yeah, and also I will say he inspired my comedy a lot. You know, like just getting to see him live. Like I do very much take off from him in that I do a lot of improvisational stuff, and he had jokes, like he had very solid jokes, but he would put them like sporadically and strategically in between his improvised stuff.
Right. Gotcha. So producing podcasts at the Comedy Cellar as well. I mean, did that help, you know, with your journey as a comedian at all, or no?
You know, in the sense that like some comedians who are past there know my face and maybe name now. To that extent it did, and the manager and the owner know my face and name, and they just don't hate me because I didn't leave on a bad note. So that's good. But you know, I think when it gets to the point where my name is like where I'm on all the good shows and I'm at the stand, so I'm not quite there yet, but I think it's gonna happen. You know, once that happens, it's gonna be a little bit easier and quicker to get into the cellar maybe than if I hadn't done that, but who knows?
So you're not even really thinking about auditioning for the cellar right now. You still have growth to be had before you get there.
It's not even that. It's just you need 3 recommendations from comedians who are past there, and it's just like I'm not on the shows, the great shows that have those comedians on them, you know, regularly. Like I'm not at the stand all the time, or New York Comedy Club all the time. So bless you. Bless your soul.
Oh, that was a rough one, boys. I had to hit the mute button so I can get that fucking. Oh, here comes another one, guys.
God, don't mute. Don't. It's not.
All right, Jacob, you look like you almost snapped your neck back there for a second.
It's like you got
there he goes.
Amazonian river dick in your ass.
Yeah, dude, that was rough. That was a rough one, buddy. So even though you produce those podcasts, you don't think that, you know, DeStefano, Pappas, or Kelly would vouch for you to get past there?
Not really. I mean, Giannis hasn't seen me do comedy. When he found out I was a comedian, he was like, "Oh God, everyone does comedy now." He didn't even like show the least bit interest. He kind of was very dismissive. So in a sense, it was kind of like very bittersweet working there, because it was like getting to hang with comedians not as a comedian, you know, as like an other. And I didn't work there long enough for them to be like invested in me, really.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean that's been kind of my experience with New York comedians as well, in a way, I guess. It's like they're kind of exasperated by like younger comedians, or at least that's the feel I got from one particular person that I opened for that came through. He was just exasperated I was even on the show. I was like,
Mm,
well, you need an opener, buddy. And then
mhm.
he got up there and bombed for 2 hours. So
Nice.
that was,
Name, who was it?
I'll tell you off air who
Okay,
it
okay.
was,
I,
but you probably won't be surprised.
all right. I've done comedy in your neck of the woods. I don't think I did anything in Mississippi, but I did New Orleans and Mandeville and Lafayette, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So where did you go? Mandeville had to have been Mandeville Social, no? Or Hideaway Den?
I think it's that guy Corey. Do you know Corey?
Corey
I think his name.
Stevens?
This was 2018, so it might not be there. I don't know. It was 5 years ago, but
Okay.
whatever.
Yeah, whatever. How was so doing comedy in the South, how does that compare to doing comedy in New York and stuff like that? Because I've heard that it's very different, and at the same time I've heard that like, well, an audience is an audience.
I mean, it was sometimes really fun. It was occasionally a little weird. Like I did one show in West Florida in like what felt like just a nightmare place where everyone had Confederate flags on their
Yeah,
trailers and shit.
that's a tough
Nice.
area to try and do
But
comedy in.
but it was still a fun show. It was like I got to do 20 minutes and $2 Miller High Lifes and paid me in weed. It was fun, it was just fun. I've had bad shows in the South and great shows, but like I just remember Atlanta being amazing where all the mics had audience. Like in New York, it's very rare to have audience at an open mic. So that was really cool. And Charleston was cool. Um, yeah, there were like good shows and bad shows like everywhere, but the audiences were pretty cool. I was thinking about this the other day though. I remember I was like telling a joke and I was like, you know how when you went to college and someone was like, we didn't go to college, and then everyone laughed. I was like, oh yeah, I'm not in a fucking rich Jewish New York where everyone went to college.
Which you bring up a good point too about the audience members at the mics in New York. So what do you do when you want to try out a new bit? I mean, because you don't have like an actual audience hardly to work anything out with. It's mostly other comics. So when you want to try out a new joke, like what do you do?
Well, you tell it at the mic in front of other comedians, and if you get that means you crushed.
Yeah, right. If you get eye contact on stage, then
Yeah, and you can try it out at shows too, and sandwich in between your older material, or if it's a shitty show, you could just do all your material, and the producer will hate you, and whatever.
yeah.
But yeah, just sandwich it in.
Yeah, I think we're very spoiled down here of having the opportunity to go to a mic and then just do 5 minutes of straight new jokes and seeing what sticks and seeing what doesn't. Like I couldn't imagine not having the opportunity to just like try out a new bit and get, immediate, is this good or is this not?
Yeah, but right now I'm on a weird adventure where most of the time all my material is new material. Like I don't even know what I'm gonna say when I get on stage most of the
Okay.
time now.
That just
I
sounds
know.
way too frightening for me.
Honestly, I did it a while back and it was really frightening, but now that I'm 10 years in and like I'm pretty comfortable on stage and I know my sense of humor and I know myself a little better and more yeah, whatever. It's not as scary. It's still scary for sure, but it also is way more enjoyable, if that makes sense. It's like because I'm surprised.
Yeah.
So I'm as surprised as the audience is sometimes at what the punchline is or what I say that's funny. So I'm getting to enjoy it with them rather than just like, I'm gonna fucking get you with this, fuckers. It feels
Have you
less
ever
less cynical.
have you ever said something that really surprised you and pushed the envelope, like the N-word?
No, not doing that.
Okay.
No. Look, because that's another thing. You got to like trust. It's an interesting. You bring up an interesting thing because it's like I have to trust my mind that like I'm not gonna go to that place. You know, I have to like go open really wide, but not that wide. You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
gotta be like this open, not fucking slur open. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So it's like you really have to know your mind and your subconscious mind, and yeah, for sure.
So when
So
you
you're
do,
not going full Ari Shafir up there.
No, I'm not going Michael Richards up there.
so
All right.
when you do come up with something that really hits, like just something completely off the cuff and organic, is that something that you'll keep in your back pocket for later again, or is it just sort of a one-off type of thing?
It depends. If there's like structure to it, where it's like can work as a joke, if I refine it, then yeah, I'll do that. Not that I really have recently, but like yeah, I can go back through the videotapes and mine it for sure. But sometimes you can't because it's like if it's a revelation I'm having on stage,
Mm-hmm.
I can't fake that energy again. I can't
Yeah.
be like, I can't be talking like the other day I was doing a show and the audience wasn't really tired and they were just like not a super like hip weird crowd. And I was talking about like I suddenly said like I like tickling myself. I don't know why I said that. And then it brought back this memory. And I was like, my friend used to beat me with hangers and tickle me. And I just, I like that memory came back and I just said it out loud and the audience erupted. But I can't come to that memory. Like I can't force that revelation, you know?
Yeah. So it sounds
Right.
like you're bringing up traumatic memories while you're on stage.
Yeah, it wasn't traumatic, because we were like, we were both 13-year-old boys fucking with each other.
Yeah.
But it was just like a weird memory.
That's weird.
So do you have any more plans to bring back the character that got you kicked out of the New York Comedy Club?
I mean, I do every now and again, when the show is right, and people on social media, they know the character because I put out videos as him. You can find it probably if you look, Jonny Rocket, Jonny Rocket. So it's out there somewhere. But right now I'm having fun as myself. I'm weird enough as myself right now that I don't feel the need to become a character to give me the license to say the things I need to say and be as free as I need to be.
Yeah.
Right. Well, describe to me what Jonny Rocket's personality is like. What do you do as Jonny Rocket that you don't do as Andrew Steiner?
I mean, now nothing, but back then, he's just a burnout, ex-rock and roller. I had a long black wig. I bring my guitar out on stage and just make up songs. And I used to do the song about like having herpes and like suck my herpes or something. I don't fucking remember what it was. But I once did it at this Irish bar. They had a music open mic, and this drunk woman, I just remember, this was the funniest thing. She was just like, "You're disgusting! Get off stage! You're sick! Shut up!" She was losing her fucking mind. Meanwhile, she's just like belligerently wasted and pretty disgusting as a human being.
That's funny. That's funny, man. Jason, is there anything else we need to hit on before we wrap this as an episode?
Are you going to ask him the normal question that we ask our guests before we leave?
Buddy, I'm glad you reminded me. I mean, I don't know how this could have lapsed my judgment. This is
because you didn't ask it last week. You completely missed it last week, and I was
last week was an experience, dude. Last week, Andrew Ferrara was so high that we were at the point of not having a conversation anymore.
Wow.
But I'm glad that you reminded me. How could I have possibly forgotten the pinnacle question of open micers? This question has been asked to the likes of Sam Talent, Dave Stone, Sean Patton, some of the best names in comedy right now.
Yeah.
Have this question has graced their ears. And now it's going to grace the ears of Andrew Steiner. Buddy, when was the last time you shit your pants? The people want to know.
Ooh, well, that's interesting. Shit my pants. Full on shit my pants.
Full on or not full on? You know, the last time poop touched underwear. Explain it to me.
Honestly, trying to remember. Well, I enjoy a little bit of butt play myself. So,
Okay.
you know, I think I remember biking to a show and, you know, farting and then there being like shitty lube in my underwear on the way to the show, not on the way back.
Just brown Vaseline.
Yeah. So I remember that. That happened pretty recently. I'll stick with that.
They call that brown sugar, baby. That's what that is.
That's molasses, man. That's molasses.
That's like, you put that in your pancakes in the morning.
See, I would think if you're a bike rider, you ride a bike anywhere, you're gonna get something on your underwear because of the way the seats are shaped. I mean, they're shaped to go right up your crack. I mean, why did we make bicycle seats like that?
This was also a public bicycle. Like we have a city bike.
So you're probably
someone else got.
Now you have a shitty bike.
Someone else slipped right off that bike when they got off.
Like, oh my god, why is this? Who put maple syrup on the freaking bike?
Was somebody eating a Twix? Why is there a brown streak on here?
Exactly.
If they remade Caddyshack, this is what it would be.
Ugh.
Instead of the milk dud in the pool or whatever, it'd be freaking shitty lube on a bicycle.
Caddy sack.
Yeah, dude. Well, Andrew, I think that's a good note to end on, buddy. Tell people everything they need to know. Okay. Where can they follow you online? Where can they listen to episodes of Special Quest? Where is it all at?
Special Quest is on YouTube. You can check out my tour dates on AndrewSteiner.net. That'll have links to my socials and everything like that. And I'm going to start a Patreon soon where I'm just going to, because all my sets are pretty much improvised, so I'm going to be posting a new set each week up there for subscribers. So that's something to look out for. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, like, you know, with doing that kind of improv comedy like that, like, you'll never get the same show twice. So how do you go about, like, kind of capturing each one as you go, you know? Because sometimes you got to capture some magic sometimes, you know?
I videotape pretty much every set, at least with a decent audience. So, you know, I got a lot of footage and, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast. I'm going to put all your links and stuff in the show notes. So if you want to go check everything out, it's going to be right there in the show notes, everybody. So is there anything you want to plug, like any shows you got coming up in the next week or so you want to put out there for everybody?
Yeah, Philly Fringe, September 7, 8, and 9. I will be there doing my one-man show, Expelled, which is does have some structure, but not as much as you might think by the poster. and I'm also going to be with Matthew Silver and this brilliant comic Steve Gerard up in Rochester Fringe Festival the 14th, 15th, and 17th.
Awesome. What about you, Jacob? You got anything coming up?
Yes, sir. As far as seeing me do stand-up, September 16th, I will be doing a Don't Tell comedy set in Ocean Springs. I can't tell you where at because I don't know where it is. October 6th, I will be competing in Stone vs. Drunk vs. Sober, which is the best comedy competition in the entire world. I will be on Team Drunk, representing. I will be in the spirit. And also next week, we have the return of the fabulous Neil Rubenstein promoting his brand new special, his first special, Have Some Dignity. We've got Mike Cronin coming on the podcast. We've got Matt O'Brien coming on the podcast. And I've still got a lot of open dates to book for. So you're going to see so many more fabulous comedians come through the Open Micers podcast. And go check out our blog on OpenMicersPodcast.com. I just put up a new blog post yesterday. Doing pretty well, and go read all that stuff.
So go do that and join our Patreon at patreon.com/OM podcast. Help us out, keep the lights on here at the show. And I don't have anything booked right now, so I'm just being lazy. So as soon as I get something booked, I'll let you guys know. But I think that's gonna do it for this week. Let me play some music here. If you want to email us email us at OpenMicersPodcast at gmail.com. We're at OpenMicers.com. And also go to our Linktree, Linktree/OpenMicersPodcast. It'll take you everywhere you need to go. And also don't forget to go to BResCoffeeCo.com and use that code OMPodcast at checkout for 10% off your order. We thank you for hanging out with us, and we'll see you guys next week.
I think I played bass for Brown Lube in high school.
Brown Lube.
Brown. I'm going to add that to the show notes. Brown Lube.
Dude, that was fun.
So is it
Thank you, Jacob.
Jonny Rocket,
Absolutely.
Jonny Rocket?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm putting that in the show notes.
Nice.
All right. Let's see. But let me go ahead and end the stream now. Thank you guys for hanging out with us here on YouTube, and we'll see you guys next